Hello.
Hey, feel like
We are back,
it's been
honey.
so
We are
long.
back.
I know.
Oh wow. How's it going? What's new in your world, sir?
Oh, it's new in my world, and I'm trying to get my. There we go. That's better. Nothing new. Same old, same old.
Same old, same old. Yeah.
Mhm.
Ain't too much over here. I mean, I do have a job situation going on, but we can get into that later on in the episode.
Yeah.
Um, um, so it's been a while. A few things have happened. The title of this, I'm sorry, welcome back to the Teacher Project 2.0. We sort of jumped sort of in the middle. Um, I am your co-host, Really BTV, and
I am L Teddy 27.
that's doctor to you, sir. Uh,
Doctor.
so you had to check somebody the other day on the doctor.
Oh, dear God. And I'm not
You
even that
very
guy.
seldom do it, but you had to do
In
it. You
fact,
had
I
to do it.
very seldom do it, but when I do,
But when you
that's
have
what I told
to,
Wendy.
right?
Is
When it
it,
has to
it
happen,
works
it has to
better
happen.
when you do it seldomly, but it has that extra punch to it. Like
Right. When
that
it has to happen, it has to happen
gives
sometime.
it
It
better
is what it
smoke.
is, child. So yeah, it's really the name of this particular episode is New Leadership Same Day because a couple of things have sort of gone down over the last couple of weeks. Now I'm a firm believer of let's wait and see what's going to happen.
Yes, you
However,
are.
I am,
Yes,
I
you
am.
are.
However, some things have already happened that are giving me pause. Okay, I'm got a side eye uh on some of the things that I've already seen. So since we've been here, I believe that our new Department of Education Secretary has been confirmed.
Yes.
I believe that has happened. Um, how you feeling about it? I mean, it wasn't who we wanted. It wasn't who we wanted. Um, at least
Um,
it wasn't my first choice. I'll say that. I don't want to speak for you.
it
And we
wasn't
did
my
do a
first choice
show. We
either.
did do a show talking about the nominees and the pros and the cons. And I don't think that this person was either one of our first choice.
Right. But here we are. You know, here we are.
Okay.
Um, I don't. I, I feel that because he is more of a career administrator, more so than a career educator. And let me be clear about that. He's more of a career administrator than he is a career educator. Let's be clear. He has not even been in the classroom since Nickleby came around.
And that's important. People who are in education understand that means
I mean,
that means something.
so his understanding of what it is to be in the classroom is before that. Now he's been an administrator, he's been a principal and school board administrator since then, but he has not been in the classroom. So I think that it's a red herring to say that, oh, we have a real teacher in there as the Secretary of Education when you know I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very leery. I like I said, I'm one of those teachers that I was there before Nickleby. I was there during Nickleby. I'm there now. I've worked on various levels, so I've seen it from all angles, and so I'm very leery of because I know what that era was, where the unspoken thing that El Teddy and I know is teachers who came in, taught for 2 or 3 years, and next thing you know they're principals, and next thing you know they're working in they're working in the office, and next thing you know they're superintendents. Like, we know what the underlying what's not being spoken is during that, especially during that era. And so I'm a little leery. And to be let me let me put some respect out there real quick because we keep saying him, her, who, Dr.
Miguel
Miguel
Cardona.
Cardona. Yeah, we hadn't said his name, but I want to put that respect on his name and that, you
Miguel
know,
Cardona.
Cardona.
Yes.
Now, do I think that ultimately it's going to be better than what we've had the last 4 years?
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
I mean, that goes without. Hopefully, that goes without being said. But so the first thing that I'm taking pause to.
Do you want me to get my updates out?
Oh yes, before we get into that, El Teddy's giving updates. I'm sorry. Y'all know he's been doing this since probably April of last year. April, May of last year. Now that he's gone through state by
I
state,
do have a drink.
he's got his libation to get him through it. So I'm sorry. Before we jump into that, El Teddy's gonna give us
Gatorade.
updates. Gatorade, okay. Oh, ginger ale.
Ginger ale. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
ginger ale, not Gatorade.
El Teddy's gonna give us updates
A
on
little bit.
state by state openings. So go ahead, run it
Okay.
down for us.
So let me go back up. All right. As of March 10th, the status of school closures and reopenings are as follows. 4 states, California, Delaware, Hawaii, New Mexico, along with the District of Columbia, have had state-ordered regional school closures, required closures for certain grade levels, or allowed hybrid instruction only. And that is because those states had changes in the numbers and things like that. So they had to shut some stuff down as numbers got progressively worse. 5 states, which are Arkansas, Florida, Iowa, New Hampshire, and Texas, have state-ordered in-person instruction, meaning the state has said, I don't care how you feel, there must be in-person instruction at some level, to some degree. And that's in Arkansas, Florida, Iowa, and New Hampshire, and Texas, I'm sorry. 1 state, West Virginia, has state-ordered in-person instruction for certain grades only. And 40 states left the decisions to this. All of the other states have left decisions to schools or school districts. So those, that's not all my updates. Give me just a moment. I was looking at another. Oh, here it is. At the beginning of March, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, a Democrat, issued an executive order recommending all school districts and private schools offer some form of in-person instructive, and that became effective immediately. And that was on March 1st. Also on March 1st, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, Republican, encouraged schools in counties across the state to return students to the classroom. In January, though, Hogan said school districts that didn't offer some in-person instruction could face legal action. Districts were allowed to decide how many days a week to offer in-person instruction. Students could still opt for virtual schooling. I'm sure Really B can give us way more specificity than that, but let me finish and then we'll let her do that. In North Carolina, the North Carolina State Senate failed to override Governor Roy Cooper's, who's a Democrat, veto of Senate Bill 37, a bill that would have required schools to provide daily in-person instruction. The vote was 29-20, 1 vote short of the 3/5 majority to override a gubernatorial veto. 1 Democrat joined with Republicans in voting to override the veto. The Senate passed the bill 31-16 on February 16. Cooper vetoed it on February 26. And that was a bill where the Senate said they had to go back in the classroom. The Democratic governor said, no, we're not doing that. Here's your veto. And they tried to override the veto and they were unsuccessful. That is in Ebby's state of North Carolina. On March 3rd, Governor Doug Ducey, a Republican of the great state of Arizona issued an executive order requiring public schools to offer in-person instruction by March 15th. High schools and middle schools in high transmission counties will be exempt from the order. Parents will still be able to keep their children in virtual classes. On March 4th, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, Democrat, signed House Bill 208, requiring public schools to offer at least 2 days of in-person instruction each week starting March 29th. The bill passed 28-8 in the state Senate on March 3rd, and the House approved the Senate's version 81-15 on March 4th. Parents could still keep their children in fully remote learning. On March 5th, Governor Kate Brown of Oregon announced she would issue an executive order requiring public elementary schools to reopen no later than March 29th for hybrid or full-time in-person instruction. The order was also scheduled to require public schools to open for grades 6 through 12 by April 19th. She said parents could still keep their children in fully remote instruction. Schools on March 8th, schools in New Hampshire were required to begin providing at least 2 days of classroom instruction each week. Under the order, schools could switch to fully remote instruction for up to 48 hours without state approval. Governor Chris Sununu, Republican, issued the requirement in a February 19th executive order. Those are my updates.
So we know that President Biden, that was one of the things he wanted was kids back in school within his first 100 days. And so it looks like,
I don't know if that's going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Do I think that a lot of kids are going to be back in school? Yes. Do I think we're going to have 100% before the end of the school year? No. I know I can speak for a fact that DC charter schools aren't going back this year. So DC public schools is back, but they're not. They're back. From my understanding, they're back Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it's only for math and reading and special ed. So on paper, they could say, yeah, we're back in school. But is it really a full school setting for every student? No, it's not. It's for math and reading and special ed. So if you teach anything other than that, you're still at home teaching. The charter schools are not going back at all. In Maryland, a lot of the counties have already gone back, and the rest of them are set to go back within the next 2 weeks. But again, is that going to be every state across the board? No, it's not. It's not. So, and as we suspected here, the schools that did go back, we are already seeing COVID cases, I think.
And that's why that update we saw was about DC having to close some schools because of the numbers that were being reported.
Loudoun County, which is in Virginia, and it's one of the more affluent counties in Virginia, well, Northern Virginia, I should say. They've already had 5 cases, and they've only been open, I think, 2 weeks, and they've already had 5 cases. I know that Howard County, which is in Maryland, they were only open for a couple of days when they had their first case. So it's one of those things where we knew it was going to happen. The question is going to be, what is going to be the response?
Let me read. Well, let's just go down it. We're here now. Let's just go down this road. So we know that.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's just go on and go down. Yeah, I was actually gonna say the same thing. Like, let's just go on and go. Hey, everybody in the chat, welcome, you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all for coming here. So we know that the great state of Texas and Mississippi have gone ahead and said there are no more COVID restrictions, which then would apply to schools. Now, There's a little difference in how that affects schools in Mississippi versus how that affects schools in Texas. In Mississippi, right now, there is no gubernatorial executive order, excuse me. Right now in Mississippi, districts may choose to open school buildings, but they must modify schedules, restrict gatherings, and observe social distancing in accordance with state and federal recommendations. However, that is what has been in place for the last few months. There hasn't been an official notification put out with regard to education, so this would still would apply, and it is still Mississippi is one of the states. If you remember, I mentioned that there were 40 states where it was still up to the school district and or schools to decide. Mississippi falls under that, so it's still up to the school districts to make the decision as to whether or not they do all of those CDC recommended things. In Texas, though, they were ordered open. The Governor Abbott ordered them, yes, you are going to open. Texas requires school districts to provide daily on-campus learning for any family who wants it in order to not lose state funding due to declines in enrollment. School districts can require individual students who are falling behind academically to return in-person classes as well. So that says a lot. We know that money is behind most of this, which is why they had that first part, which says on-campus learning for any family who wants it in order to not lose state funding due to declines in enrollment. Also, the part about failing students who are falling behind academically or may be failing, they may be required to return to in-person classes. Mind you, some of these students ain't gonna pass whether it's in person, out of person, or your remote virtual. It's just not gonna happen. Some of these same kids was failing last 2 years ago when they were in the classroom.
We'll get to my beef before this is over with, and that's part of what my beef is, but we'll get to it.
And please be clear, now that we're talking about states like Texas, which is the most egregious, but not the only one. What was that, Idaho or Iowa? That's the same way where there are no restrictions.
Right.
You're talking about
in defense of Iowa, the population, I'm not saying justifies it, but the population is way different when we're talking about than Texas. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still think everybody should be wearing a mask, but if we're gonna, it's like,
I mean, the Texas houses, if I'm not mistaken, 2 of the 10 largest cities in the United States. I think Houston is number 4, and I think Dallas is somewhere
the third largest state in the country.
Exactly, and Dallas.
But third or fourth. I know Alaska's the largest, but per capita, you know, based on population, I think it's second or third.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's you know, yeah, because it's California, Alaska, Texas, New York. They're all in the top 4 now. The order. You know, I know Alaska. I know, well, based on land mass, not population.
On land mass, land mass, yes.
Yeah, so, but I'm just saying, as far as per capita, Texas, it's got to be in the top 3. I think
it's top 3. I know it's New York, Texas, California. Florida.
I think those are the top 3.
Those states.
Florida, okay, yeah. But anyway, the point is valid.
But my point is,
yeah,
schools are not a place of social distance. Social distancing is not possible or feasible.
Right.
Especially on a high school level.
Right.
Especially on a high school level. And so what now we're talking about, even though these people do not want to acknowledge the fact that there is a pandemic, and even once you start to have more people that are getting vaccinated, you're neglecting the fact that the WHO and other international medical agencies are screaming, it's not, put your guard down, because we don't even know if these vaccines protect you from the new variants. And the new variants are now spreading more. They spread more rapidly. They the transmission of it happens way more quickly, and it takes more of a toll in a faster amount of time. And so, if the vaccine is not effective against new variants of the virus, and you go back and now you have a virus that's more infectious, and you just say, okay, we just gonna let you could have a worst case scenario. You could have some stuff that's out of a movie, as if we already don't have that going on right now. But it could get much worse, and you're putting people's lives in danger, and it is disgusting. I really want to use a lot of choice words, but I'm going to keep it professional. I'm going to put my Cheryl Underwood on.
Ooh,
And
ooh.
keep it professional and classy
So,
based.
with that being said, I'll go ahead and talk about my situation a little bit. I won't be speaking specifics to protect the innocent and the guilty, but I'm just going to give y'all a very general of what's going on in my situation. Now, to answer Abby's question, are they going to be no? No one's being There's no mandatory mandate for anybody to be vaccinated, the kids or the adults. First of all, I don't even think the kids are eligible for this vaccination, are they?
No. Now,
I don't think
Pfizer is the only vaccine that they have said they approved for kids, but it's only kids 16 and up. It has not been
there's no mandate. Yeah, and even with the teachers, there's no mandate. I know in some states, like the state where I am, teachers they labeled teachers essential workers, so teachers were eligible to get in line before.
Here in Georgia, they opened it up to teachers are eligible.
But not every state did that originally. So you had teachers having to go back into the building and not even being given the option of getting the vaccination, whether they wanted it or not. Also, I'm going to be careful with my words because I really am going to speak some things, but I do want to be careful with my words. Some counties where I live, I'll say it that way, I'll word it that way, are not even providing PPE for teachers. Desk shields are not being provided. Basically, teachers are being sent back into the classroom with some masks, some hand sanitizer, and some gloves. Okay. And basically have told teachers, if you want anything past that, it's on your dime. Which is always our dime.
But here's the thing, Billy B, mind you, even the two stimulus packages that President Trump put out there gave money to school systems around the country.
Absolutely.
All three of them gave money to K through 12 education. What have they done with these funds? Because they are not adequately preparing these schools for in-person instruction at all, which is why we had this situation over there in the state of Philadelphia, where the Philadelphia union president told them absolutely nobody go back to work, and the governor said, oh, you go back to work or you're going to face disciplinary action. And we got all because they were afraid that they didn't prepare the schools properly. It's a whole lot of.
I agree, because that's exactly what teachers were told that asked about where there'll be desk shields for teachers' desk and what's going to be put in place for students' desk. That the answer was there's no money for
it. And let me say this, really be what you I'm not trying to infuse stuff outside of education in it, but this is I'm going somewhere with this. You know how yesterday or day before yesterday, the little video came out with the chicks in the back seat of the Uber car, and they were coughing on the man and all this kind of stuff. The nasty attitudes. Not really me. And you've been teaching longer than I have, and you know how nasty students can and do it sometimes.
And we know how parents send them to school.
Exactly, and it could be a child that acts that way, coughing purposely, saying, "Oh, I don't like her anyway. Let me go over here and just scare her and cough on her." And all kinds of. They are nasty like that.
Listen, there's a county where I live where originally teachers were told that that temperatures would be taken at the door every morning. And if anybody had a fever, they were going to be sent home, teachers and students, right? That was going to be the protocol. Now, that was the plan that had been rolled out back in October when, they thought they were going back to school soon. Well, now fast forward to March and the policy has been changed. Nobody's getting their temperatures taken. Just come on in the building. Now, I know that a temperature being taken is not foolproof. We know that, but it's better than nothing. Mm-hmm. It's better than nothing. And so it's political. So going back to Biden saying he wanted all the schools open within the 100 days. A lot of this is political. And I'm going to tell you why it's political. Like part of what El Teddy spoke on, the counties where I live, again, most of them just went back to school within the last couple of weeks. And a couple of them aren't even going back until April, right? That's fourth quarter. That's fourth quarter. Either your child has passed or your child has failed. There is nothing going on. Let's be clear. I'm not saying that there's no teaching going on during the fourth quarter because I'm not saying that. But as far as there are very few kids who need fourth quarter to make or break them. Now, on a high school level, we know that kids care about their GPAs and all of that good stuff. And so, yes, people are still striving to get A's and B's because they want that GPA. We know that there are people who are on the fence, right? But the vast majority of students, their future as far as whether they're moving on to the next class has been sealed. And as far as there's a GPA involved and all that, that's another conversation. And so the question is this about what's in the best interest of students, or is this about saying, hey, we opened up schools? Because you're putting students and teachers at risk for 2 months of school that really, I'm an educator, don't come at me, but really doesn't matter when you're talking about life or death. Now, this were a regular school year. Of course, I teach during the fourth quarter. It's not that, but at the end of the day, when you're talking about putting people at risk, is it worth the risk for 2 months of instruction? And let's be clear, on the high school level, it ain't even going to be that. Because like I know, El Teddy, once that weather, now you down in the South, but up here, once that weather break and we start getting them string of 70 and 80 degree days, they stop coming to school on a regular basis anyway. What you think they're going to do now?
Well, to answer your question, Abby, I see your question. Absolutely, you cannot do that.
Nope.
That you cannot by any stretch of the imagination, because if you leave that child out there, if they are your responsibility, and if something happens to that child during the time that they were supposed to be in your classroom, you are then liable. If that child fall down a flight of stairs because now he's skipping class while he was supposed to be in your classroom, you are going to be responsible.
If he get caught walking into somebody else's classroom acting a fool, if he get caught down the street at the McDonald's getting into a fight, all of that, the first thing they can do is say, well, where was he supposed to be? Now, if he cut class on his own, that's one thing. But if he tried to get in the room and you rejected him from coming into the room, no.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Which brings me to my dilemma. And I spoke on this a little bit before. When people
Hey, Kat.
What's up, boo? Send him to the nurse because he has a fever. Maybe. It depends on if your school. Well, maybe.
If the answer is maybe. Nurse.
Right. I was going to say whether you have a school nurse, but under these circumstances, I think that's one thing that they did with the money was that they're going to make sure that there's a nurse all day, every day, at every school.
You would hope.
I'm gonna just say that. You're right. I do know that. Like for example, remember my school they did actually have a graduation for the kids back in August, and remember that everybody had to have their temperatures taken coming in, and they staggered it where they only did like 10 graduates at a time. And it was an all-day event, but they wanted to do something for the kids to at least give them some semblance of a graduation ceremony. And I know that day we had 4 nurses, but that was for one day whatever. So the situation is, I know in some counties they had the teachers come back before the students. Hey, Jason, it was nice to see you earlier today, sir. Very nice to see you. I can put a face with the name now. And so when you have the teachers coming in the building before the students, really for no reason, because there's still not going to be any meetings. They said everything is still going to be done virtually. Any training, any staff meetings, any department meetings will still be done virtually. So essentially, you have the teachers coming into the building just to say that they're in the building to teach from their classroom. Now, I know that teachers have been doing this all year long. I know that there have been some school districts where teachers have been required to come in the building all year, even though students could stay home. I get it, y'all. And I'm not complaining because I know that other teachers have had to do this all year. But here's my problem. Why are we changing this in the fourth quarter, though? That's all. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
we know why. Why. There is all about the politics, and it's all about them being able to put things on paper and check a box. The school system and education is always about that. Sometimes it's all about having a plan on paper or saying you did something on paper rather than truly seeing that thing through to fruition, or making sure that that thing actually is carried out the way it should be or is thought through. Because there's a whole lot of things that look great on paper and that sound good years from now when I read or put on a resume that I did that. But if I go back and talk to the people that were involved with it or that were on the ins and outs of it, they're gonna say, "Child."
Right. We know how to make stuff sound good.
It was not that glamorous.
We know how to make stuff sound good. So
and so a lot of this has to do with them, people in positions of power being able to say, well, we made it happen and we accomplished it here. Damn what that means to people's health and well-being, but they just want to be able to for the next election cycle to be able to say that they did that so that they have that to use for campaign rhetoric.
Yeah. And so with that being said, that rolls us into the next topic, what we were going to speak on to begin with. Going back to the Department of Ed for a second. I'm just going to read you guys a little bit of this. And normally I put the links to the articles that we're going to be referencing in the description box. So I have to add this after the fact. My apologies. I'm normally on top of that, but I ain't do it today, so I apologize. But this article, it comes from NPR, and I will definitely post it afterwards. The U.S. Education Department says state tests must resume the annual testing of students that was suspended a year ago amid the pandemic. For the past 2 decades, federal law has required schools to test students once each year in math and reading in grades 3 through 8 and once in high school, and they are required to publicly report these standardized test results. Broken out by racial and ethnic group and disability status, and in some cases, hold schools accountable with various sanctions if their students score too low. In March of 2020, with nearly every school in the union suddenly pivoting to remote learning, the department waived these requirements. But February 22nd, a letter to state school chiefs and governors, the department wrote that states must again give these tests and provide the results. It remains vitally important that parents, this is a quote, vitally important that parents, educators, and the public have access to the data on student learning and success, end quote. Now I'm going to go, I'll read this last little part. States must also publicly report other indicators like chronic absenteeism, as well as where possible information on students' access to computers and the internet for remote learning. This information is intended to address the educational inequities that have been exacerbated by the pandemic, including by using student learning data to enable states, school districts, and schools to target resources and supports to the students with the greatest needs. Your thoughts, Dr. El Teddy?
Well, we talked about this a little last teacher project. We got into a little some people might say kerfuffle or
Kerfuffle.
skirmish. Um, because and it wasn't that I disagreed that there should be testing, but I know how these people work. There was no way, shape, form, or fashion that they were gonna let 2 school years go by and not have any testing or data. There's no way. No, I just couldn't. And as much as it would make sense, I could not wrap my hands around it because there's too much money involved in testing.
And that was never my issue. I never disagree with that aspect of it. My issue was I didn't think we like if we're talking about what's in the best interest of children, this, like you said, this is money driven, not driven by what's in the best interest of children. Because again, you say, oh, well, we're going to put on there where they can say whether this was an online, this was a virtual, this was this, and this was that. You know, at the end of the day, don't nobody care about them asterisks. All they looking at is the raw data. And I don't disagree with what you're saying that we were crazy to think that they were going to allow 2 years to go by where there was no going to be no accountability held. I agree with you on that. But I just disagree with them doing it.
Let's be clear. 95% of things associated with the education system is only put under the guise of it being in the best interest of children, when clearly it's only in the best interest of the adults. And I'm gonna give you a perfect example, and you can probably relate. When teachers have observations from their school site administrator, their principal, assistant principal, whoever is responsible for doing the observation. Really, we can tell you 95 to 98% of that observation has absolutely nothing to do with the children. Nothing. Everything that they're looking for is only geared toward to see whether or not this teacher followed some inane or archaic rule, policy, or process that they wanted them to. Which is, I'll give you one example that used to aggravate me to no end. Where in most school districts, they want you to put the state standard or benchmark that you're supposed to meet for the day. And not just the verbiage, which most time is very confusing, but the nomenclature with regard to the letters or the number system involved with, you know what I'm saying? And I would be like, the kids don't even know what that means. They're not even reading that. And I used to argue everything on my board is for my students. And if it's something on my board that is not there to address their needs and what they need to learn their lesson, then I'm not putting it on my board. And I would get all kinds of disciplinary actions and stuff because they were like, well, you know, you're supposed to have this on your board. Because I said, this is for y'all. This is not for the kids. Because my kids are performing, they're learning, and they don't know anything about these little numbers and different stuff. So I'm saying that to say this. Let me go back to my point. 95% of what goes on in education has nothing to do with the betterment of children. It's only of the students. It's only done under the guise of it being for the betterment of the students. This is always for the betterment of the adults involved for a myriad of reasons, be it money, be it political aspirations, professional aspirations and goals, or whatever. But we could just throw on out the window about the betterment of children.
I'm sorry. I just read Jason's comment. He said, half these kids will be in call center jobs anyway. Let them know it sucks early, you know. I'm sorry. It tickled me. It tickled me. That brought me to something else, Teddy. I want to read this. I mean, I'm going to play this for you. Now, last teacher project, we played things that parents say to teachers about their students, like ridiculous things. So here, when you said that, it made me think of this TikTok. I'm going to play this TikTok and then we can move on. But this TikTok is entitled, Ridiculous Things Principals Have Told Teachers During Observations. That made me think of this. So I'm going to play it for you guys.
I got something new for you. Things principals told teachers in their evaluations. For those of you who don't know, principals are required to give performance reviews to teachers. These days, teachers are assessed using the Danielson model, which is built on the middle finger notion that you are never perfect. You should write today's date on the left side of the board, not the right. The date's on the board. Who cares? Your class could hear the TV from next door and you did nothing to solve that problem. Bro, it's next door. Why don't you save that for their evaluation? If you sharpened all the kids' pencils before they arrived, you would have more time in your lessons. Want me to cut the crust off their sandwiches too? They can do it themselves. The lesson was fine, but it didn't wow me. Well, this evaluation doesn't wow me, so we're even. You're right on the board too big. Are you serious right now? It's too easy to read. Although to be fair, if I got any of these, it would be a really good evaluation.
So when you said about the date, that's what made me think of that when you were talking about you having the standard written. So like, and this is what people don't understand. Like that stuff is legit. I had a science teacher one time, and this was before I was in administration or anything like that. I had a science teacher was told in her evaluation she had a plant in her classroom it had died for whatever reason. She didn't water it enough. Whatever, the plant died. She was told that as a science I'm paraphrasing, but as a science teacher, that was a poor representation of her knowledge of content because she's supposed to be teaching about photosynthesis. So how can she not keep a plant alive?
Oh, listen, I
was like, are you serious right now?
I got told literally from a school site administrator who shall remain nameless. She had a problem because I came to school every day in shirt and tie because she wanted me to go and purchase one of the school polo uniforms and wear that to school every day. And I told her absolutely unequivocally, I will not. I will wear my shirt and tie because I will maintain a certain level of professionalism. And she got upset with that. Another principal got upset because I called students Mr. or Ms. and their last name. But that's not a personal relationship with the student, and you should call them by their first name.
By their last name all the time.
I say no, just like I want them to call me doctor, my last name, to remain professional. I will do the same thing with them because we're not friends. And we would never be friends.
Right.
It's just such it's just, like he said, it's just them trying to nitpick and find something to say. Like I went off on a principal. She said, well, when you were presenting your lesson and I asked the student what was going on, I said, let me stop you right there, because by no stretch of the imagination should you be talking to a student of mine if I am at the board presenting a lesson, because now you've disrupted the learning environment. So you are the one who's wrong, not me, by even asking my student a question while I was giving direct instruction. And they gave me points off because they said I was being insubordinate. Just craziness like this. Craziness, just absurdities that go on. Just absurdity.
I'm gonna say this and then we can move on. One time, I have a really bad habit. Even now, like if y'all can see it right now, even now I have a really bad habit of not finishing bottles. I don't know what it is. Like I will literally have 4 or 5 bottles like this just sitting there. It's like when I get low, I feel like I need more. And so I have a really bad habit of that. And then one day this is water, so I'll just drink all of the water, but if it's like soda or something, it's flat, so I'll throw it away. So one time I had and usually in my classroom, like at the end of the week, I would clean off my desk and throw all the stuff away or whatever. And so one day I had like an unannounced observation. So they came in my classroom unannounced, no problem, whatever. Literally, that's what was written. And this is, I remember this now. This is a quote. At the bottom of it, it said, "What's up with all that?" And that back then I was addicted to Pepsi. So I had Pepsi, 4 or 5, almost drunk bottles of Pepsi all around my classroom. Not bothering anybody, just like on top of the bookshelf, sitting at my desk, whatever. What's up with all the Pepsi bottles? Now, I get it. It's probably not the nicest looking situation, but that's what you really, like with everything going on in my classroom, That's the problem you had. Now, mind you, like I said, every Friday I would clean it up. I would throw all the damn bottles away, you know, whatever. But if you came in my room on a Wednesday, you probably did see 3 bottles of Pepsi somewhere in my classroom. It just was what it was. I would walk around with the bottle in my hand. If I stopped to help a student, I would put it down on the bookshelf, and it might sit there for a day, and I go back to it and throw it away later. But I was just like, that's the problem you got right now? I got empty bottles of Pepsi sitting in my...
It's just ridiculousness.
Anyway,
and that's why I always be like, these people are not concerned with the betterment of the children. Let's be clear. This is not about the children. The children.
Right. And that's a fact, Jason. That's not even a coachable point. Like, how do you coach that?
No. My favorite one was, well, everything went so well. However, I gotta give you offers something. So
right.
The That's fact that no, and here's where I really got angry. Well, you know, I don't think you should be writing in cursive on the board. I said, I teach English. Part of my curriculum at that time, which 8th grade, part of my curriculum was them leaving the class with a developed signature. Signature development starts with the ability to write in cursive. Fact. And then you can derive it from there, but it starts there. And I write in cursive so they know how to read in cursive. But you're going to tell me that you got a problem with me writing on the board in cursive all the time. Probably because your ignorant ass can't read in cursive. See, and there I go left. I apologize.
Okay, let's come back to the center. We're coming back. Come on, woosah. We're coming back. We're coming back. Come back to the center.
Okay. I'm sorry. I had a whole moment like this was my personal channel.
And that's the reality of it. But we're here. It's okay. It's okay. And we have teachers in the chat that are like, yes, we understand. It is super annoying. We get it. We get it. So, so we had that going on. Now, I did look up under this new stimulus. I did look up to see if there was anything that affects. We lost him. I'm sure he'll be back in a moment. It looked like he was having something happen. Maybe he got a phone call or something. He'll be back. We did look up on the stimulus whether there was going to be anything as it affects teachers under this new stimulus plan, and there really is nothing. There really is nothing there. The only thing is that Biden, through executive order, you back?
Sorry. Yeah, I had a phone call that knocked me out.
Okay. Right. Cursive is a secret code now, right? But the stimulus, I mean, by executive order, the president extended student loan repayment for the next 8 months. So if you were currently under a student loan repayment plan, then, or any type of student loan, like whatever, even if you plan paying them the way you're supposed to be paying them, you're good for the next 8 months. Now, I will say this: if you can afford to send something, because you know they're gonna kill y'all with the interest. I say y'all, I mean us. But if you one of them people, like me, who was, scraping and scrapping and all that other stuff, then you do have a few months to kind of, do what you need to do with that. But as far as the stimulus plan that just passed this week, there isn't anything specifically for teachers and students. Now, again, school districts got money, but nothing was specifically geared towards us. Like I said, other than the executive order to hold off on student loan repayment for the next 8 months. So yeah, we had that. It was something else we said we were going to touch on.
I had to bring myself down. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. We're back.
You now? You back?
Yes. I can breathe now. Breathe
again. Breathe again. Amy, you're probably gonna get yours this weekend because you were always the first one. You were always in that first group. I know that there are people who've already gotten. People always said that it's already hit their accounts. So you're probably going to be one of the first people to get yours. I don't think I'm getting one. So yeah, that happened.
I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, you're trying to depress me again.
I don't think I'm getting one. Okay. So anyway, moving on. Like
my shirt, never forget. Floppy disk.
I did see that earlier. That is so cute. The next time you see something like that, get one in my size. Thank you. It's really cute because I think that is so cute. I love that. Not pineapple juice for everybody.
No. We need one of these for teachers that has the old manual grade book where you would write the grade. You would take out the little ruler and you remember.
Oh, you know what? Wait a minute. Hold on. Don't say too much because that's a great idea for some merch. That's a great idea for some merch when we blow up. When we blow up. Speaking of blowing up, before we get ready to get out of here, I want to thank everybody who was here. I know we haven't had a chance to do roll call, but I appreciate everybody who was here today. And you guys, we are slowly but surely climbing up. Okay, we are getting there. We are at 260 something subscribers. And you know, we normally don't do no whole lot of will you, but I just think we do a great thing here. I think we have some great content. We talk about some great things, and I've heard really good feedback from people who have found us. So if you could just tell a friend to tell a friend, share the video, spread the word, because I think we giving people some good stuff over here. So that we can, and again, it's not about getting to a certain number. It's just about getting to more people so they can hear. And a lot of times when we do, I know El Teddy, it's happened to El Teddy on other platforms as well as myself, we get to talking about education and then people are like, oh, well, and they ask us questions. And a lot of the questions they ask us are things we've already done episodes on. And so we always refer them back and say, hey, go over to the Teacher Project 2.0 because we talked about this. We already had a conversation about this. We already went over this. And it's not that we don't want to say it again, but it's like, hey, if you subscribe to the channel, you get all this great information.
Me about cyber nanny type software where it will, you know, block certain websites for students and stuff like that. I said, oh, we did a whole thing on Teacher Project with that,
right.
You know, at the beginning of the summer where we gave you free options and we compared different free options that we gave. I said, go over there. We got links and everything on there. And it will definitely give you all of the information that you need to protect your child from various parts of the internet, like my YouTube page where your child should not be watching.
Right. So we definitely want to make sure that we are getting that out. So, you know, you guys tell a friend to tell a kin, in the words of Alexander Rogers. And getting people on over here. Thank you, Jason. Thank you so much, Jason. So with that being said, if as always, you can reach out to the Teacher Project. You can send us an email at theteacherproject2.0@gmail.com. Follow us over on IG at the_teacher_project_2.0. Please go and check us out. And I'm gonna put a shameless plug in, and then I'll let Dr. El Teddy have the final word. I am gonna immediately jump on to my YouTube channel, Really Be TV. We're gonna El Teddy, not Dr. El Teddy, but El Teddy already spoke about this yesterday on his channel, but I got some words I need to share with Miss Sharon Osborne myself. So I'll be on my channel immediately following this to speak on few things that's been going on this week.
Cheryl Underwood is the question. I don't answer that. Y'all go over and see.
And also later on tonight at 7:00, I've got a real busy evening. At 7:00 on my channel, I will be having hosting a panel on RuPaul season 13 up until this point. I will have Spiller Boy TV, Epic, Onyx, Dominion Onyx, and Abby Reviews. And we will be, it's going to be an hour from 7 to 8. And we're going to just kind of go through the queens, what we like, what we didn't like.
I don't get no invite. Like, I don't watch the show. See how she do me, y'all. Y'all see how she do me. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What was happening?
I literally just spent a whole hour with you. Literally.
Ooh.
Literally. I'm not doing this for him. Anyway, moving on. But thank you guys. That's just a shameless plug. Now I'm gonna be quiet and I'm gonna let Dr. El Teddy speak. gonna say that. I wish I had $1 for every time I know when you gonna say something and I'm right. I knew you were gonna say that.
We thank you so very much for being with us here today on the Teacher Project 2.0. They never let me join the parties, y'all. I'm always left behind. That's okay.
You were on my After Dark. Did I not have you on my After Dark?
Listen, y'all, in the Treasure House, me and Jada, we are so happy being in our own rooms, not being bothered while they having fun down in the den or down in the living room. We don't never get invites, and that's fine. Anyway, but I do, I am, and really, you got to keep me honest on this, because this will definitely help us out. Remember, I talked about doing a show about Black males in education. I got
I definitely, yes, definitely.
And I definitely know that could be a really good thing. So I'll invite some of my peoples and stuff like that, and we'll have that whole conversation because it's definitely needed. And I also let's do this. Let's have one. We're definitely gonna have another one before the end of the month. But I'd really like to tackle also the topic, and I was thinking about this the other day, forgot to mention it to you, how, and you probably will be know a lot about this too, how the in terms of the pay for teachers and how that changed once the pool of employees became more female as opposed to male, and how that stymied the pay scale or growth of the pay scale for educators, for the simple fact that, and that's K through 12 specifically, because there were more women there began to be more women in the profession than men, and they didn't want to pay women equitably. And I definitely think that is something that should be talked about, because a lot of people hear teachers complain all the time about why they're not being compensated the way that they should, but there is a history about that and behind that, a very storied, I'll say, history behind how that got to be. Even when you look at the varying the difference between college instruction and K through 12, and it's not just to do with the level of degrees or the amount of degrees people have. I don't know what you think about that, young lady who doesn't.
I'm here for it, and maybe that's something that we can start looking into over, like, for one of our summer shows. But I'm definitely here for it. I'm definitely here for it. I've been really. Did you really just slurp? Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, good night, goodbye, good afternoon. Thank y'all. I'm out. I'm hitting the button. You really just slurp. You leaned over too.